Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube. Coming to you a little later than usual after a Knicks game because of the fact that I hightailed it to the Garden tonight. And you know what? It was, to me, like a throwback night at the Garden, the kind we used to have back in the Riley's Nick days, the kind we lived on in the 90s, the kind we thrived on, with the obviously culminating in 94 when we had that special spring. But I tell you, it really took me back. The crowd had to be coaxed into the game. It was a star-studded group, there's no question. There were ex-Knicks everywhere. There were, celebrities everywhere. I mean, when the A-list celebrities are sitting under the basket, they have a big crowd there. They have a lot of them there because they can't get them all courtside. So they put them on the baseline, and they don't like being on the baseline. But hey, listen, the owner sits on the baseline. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. The bottom line is this was a game that the Knicks had to almost survive. It was a frustrating game. The same script over and over where the Celtics just continue to just sting the Knicks with these threes, one after the other. They come out tonight and White hits four right in a row, and Tatum is on fire from three. And they're just knocking down three after three, and the numbers are nauseating. And every time you turn around, the Knicks are down 10, they're down 12, and you're like, this can't get to 20. And I went to the game tonight with an old friend and a guy who's, I text back and forth with through the years. Now, I told you that Josh Safdie, who did the movie Uncut Gems that I was in with Adam Sandler, and he actually had Adam Sandler up on the phone tonight, among other people during the game. But crazy Knick fan. I mean, absolutely crazy Knick fan. And he's always texting me during the games. We go back and forth and everything else. And we have for years. And we've talked about going to a game together forever, but we decided, let's go to a game together. So we went to the game tonight, and it was just unbelievable. And it was so frustrating, though, because your Knicks it's almost like they were climbing uphill and climbing uphill and trying to find themselves as they get frustrated time and time again by another open three, and then another dagger three, and then Tatum hit a three. And Tatum was, before he got hurt tonight, and I went out the back way tonight, which means I went underneath the Garden to go out for Penn because it was a madhouse. The streets were packed. The fans are all everywhere. It's just unbelievable. So I went in and out of Fort Penn tonight, and so I went after the game, waited for the crowd to kind of dissipate, and went down underneath and back through the locker room area, to the elevators. And a couple of guys I know said to me, "We think it's an Achilles tendon." Now that's what we hear. That's what we were hearing. Is that for Tatum, this was an Achilles tendon injury. If it is an Achilles, I mean, it's a devastating injury. I can't see him. The way he left and the way he was writhing in pain, and he was in tears back there near the locker room. I have to figure that this is a very serious injury. It looks like the kind of injury in space that could definitely be an Achilles. Everyone was, the kind of buzz was that it wasn't Achilles. I don't know that to be confirmed yet. But I don't think you're going to see him again as we get ready. And does it change the complexity of the series? Yes. I mean, let's be fair. See, if that takes away from a Knick victory, then tough. Listen, injuries are part of this. These playoffs are a war of attrition. Golden State's playing without Curry. Okay? Cleveland's played without multiple players, and then, you know, had more injuries at halftime when their star goes down at halftime, but that game was over anyway. I mean, they were dead in that game by halftime. So when he goes down, it didn't change the outcome that night. Now we'll see if it changes it going forward. injuries are part of this stuff. You know, I remember going back into days that a lot of Knicks fans only read about like their, ancient history. You know, the Celtics got beat by the Knicks because Havlicek was hurt. The Knicks got beat in the playoffs because the Busher was hurt. Not only was Reed hurt, but the Busher was hurt. And, it happens. Guys get injured and you lose players. And right now, look at Golden State trying to survive without Curry. So that happens. You don't want to see that. You want to beat the team at full strength. And Tatum was just on fire tonight. I mean, he answered every bell. I mean, he hit every shot. He was just insane. But I said to uh, Josh at halftime, I said, Josh, I don't think they can do this without an explosion here. And it was a very quiet second quarter for Brunson. And I said, I don't think they can do this without a Brunson explosion. And that came in the third quarter, as he had an unbelievable third quarter. And then Bridges, as I've told you at the start of the series, if this was going to be a series, there were two things that I thought had to happen. One has happened, and that's Bridges, who has come to life in the fourth quarters of these games in 3 of the 4, in all 3 victories. And tonight again, play after play, and you got to give Brunson some rest. So those minutes where he has Brunson on the bench and he's getting those big baskets at the start of the fourth quarter, because I thought it was psychologically so important as the Knicks had tried to get uphill and get a lead. Because remember, they've come back in 2 of these games, but they have trailed almost the entire series. And I did not want to see them go into the fourth quarter, and have a 20-point deficit again, because I don't think they would have overcome it. And in the third quarter, they wrestled command. And then Bridges put on a show, both ends of the floor, defense, defensive rebounding, steals, baskets. I mean, doing what Bridges was brought here to do. That's the player. Sprinkle in OG putting up points. 4 guys get 20 points. Brunson gets 39. Bridges has a great second half. OG has a good offensive game after, and a good fourth quarter offensively. I thought he hit the biggest tray of the night. I thought he hit the biggest basket because they kept. One time Tatum hit a 3 and put them back in front, and I said, I don't think the Knicks can do this from behind psychologically, because they can't get enough stops. They started to get stops. They did a much better job on the 3 in the second half. Much better. Early in the game, they were giving up so many open threes, and they were being so frustrated by everything. The Celtics had an answer for everything. And then the Knicks got that third quarter, and they had hung in. But remember, they're down 74-58 if the White hits a 3 in the corner. And I'm telling you, Thibodeau was livid. And the game changed out of that timeout. Remember, it was 74-58. It might have been 74-60, but I think it was 74-58. And you could just tell he was livid. And right there, the game changed in the third quarter. Right there, the game just completely changed and just took off. There was, what was the score? Here it is. It was after a White 3, 72-58, 14, 72-58. White hits the 3 in the corner off a Tatum dish. 9 minutes left, timeout. Now, out of that timeout, Brunson goes on his run, makes a 3, makes it 72-61. Gets a layup, makes it 72-63. Gets fouled. That's when he got the flagrant from Brown, who did not let him land landed on his foot, gave him 3, which he made 2 of, and got the ball back. So they go off that 72, 64, 65, and then a Brunson jumper, and then a Bridges jumper, 72, 67. They are right back in the game. White comes back with another 3 to put it 75, 68. And then Tatum gets off the steal, gets the dunk. They're still back 10, and you're saying, oh, not again. Every time you turn around, here they come and get it back. There's 6 minutes left in the third quarter, but that's where the offense and the defense kick in. Towns scores. Then Brunson gets hot, and Bridges gets a steal, feeds Towns, who scores again. And Tatum kept coming down and making baskets, but they got a little bit from everybody at the end there, from Towns, from Hart. And then Brunson makes the jumper that makes it 83-81. And then off that, ties it at 83. And off that, Tatum makes 2 free throws. And OG, with 32 seconds left in the third quarter, hits a 3 to put them up 86-85. They trailed just one more trip in the game. And that was, I think, 99-98 after a Tatum jump shot. Otherwise, they led the entire way. And they needed a margin in the fourth quarter, which they got. They got the steal, a couple of steals. They got the OG dunk. They got the dunk off the time where Tatum went down, and then Tatum goes down in a lump. And it was over then. You could sense it was over. They had broken it open. They got it to 5. They got it to 7. They got it to 9. And the next thing you know, they had it where they could win the game. A game they had to win. They got whacked on Saturday. They were having trouble getting this figured out tonight. And then they finally reached down deep, and then the building joined them. The building had trouble getting going, even though it was trying, because of the fact the Celtics were just hitting dagger after dagger after dagger. And it was relentless with all these threes. And then that run where they finally got the lead. And I said during the game, I think the Knicks mentally, because of the way this series has gone and how hard it has been for them to match up with all the weapons the Celtics have, I really felt they had to play this from in front in the fourth quarter. And they stayed in front. Brunson baskets, Bridges baskets, Brunson making plays, Bridges making plays on the defensive end, and then making plays on the offensive end, sprinkle in some OG. And the next thing you know, they were able to finally break it open. The Celtics saw their three-point numbers come down in the second half, which was pivotal. Okay? It looked like they were going to have another one of these crazy nights. They wound up only shooting 37% from 3. In the first half, they shot over 50%. And Tatum, who had a really terrific game. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Tatum scored 42 points. He made 16 to 28 shots. And you realize he was 9 for 12 on his 2-point attempts. He was 7 for 16 on his 3-point attempts. Now, 7 for 16 is not terrible. And a lot of them were long, but he had so many back-breaking trips. But the Knicks started to dig in, and they started to play better defense. And they started to get more aggressive with their mentality offensively. And then the fans kicked in the fourth quarter. And you know what? To me, it was like being back in the 90s. Different game? Absolutely. Different kind of team? Absolutely. Different players? Absolutely. But the same Garden on a May night like only the Garden can sound in the fourth quarter of that game. So now the Knicks have a 3-1 lead. If Tatum makes a miraculous comeback, is this series over? No, not by a long shot. How do the Celtics handle this if he's out? I think they'll be very dangerous in Game 5 no matter what. But I don't think they'll win this series with him on the bench. And that's just logical. But I just don't think they will. I wouldn't be surprised if they won Game 5 without him, and they could do that. Brown could have a huge game. Pritchard could turn around and get 25. He's a pain in the neck. I love him, but he's a pain in the neck. This was a game where Brunson took it over, and then Bridges did what Bridges has to give you. And he's had a very odd, very enigmatic, very inconsistent year. At times I've been very disappointed with him, with his softness, with his disappearing act. But I know what is there in that player, a player who can have an unbelievable impact on both ends of the floor. He can be a lock 'em up defender. He can get 4 or 5 steals. He can score time and time. He can get 30. He can get 40 any night. He can have a 20-point quarter. They will not win. They will not go to a final. They will not beat anybody left in the playoffs without Bridges being an incredibly important contributor. And tonight, that happened down the stretch with OG, especially with Bridges, obviously with Brunson. You don't want to count the Celtic team out, and I don't know what's up with Tatum yet. I would say you're not going to see him again in the series. I would not just cast off the 5th game no matter what. But, and listen, if the Knicks win this series, they win it fair and square. It doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on, somebody telling you, "Oh, we would have won it if we had had Tatum." They don't know that. They don't know that because they were losing. They were losing this game tonight, despite Tatum's brilliant performance. They were losing this game tonight when he went down. They were already They were going to lose this game. It didn't mean they were going to lose the series, but they were going to lose this game because they were going to probably win Game 5 and come back, and they would have been a handful in Game 6. Now you lose one of the top players in the league. That's a devastating blow. And I would think, based on what I saw tonight and what I heard walking out, I don't think you're going to see him. And for me, who spent so many of those nights in that building, so many of those, and I have said this through the years, and I've said it on many of my radio programs. The biggest loss in the 35 years that I did afternoon drive and watched and saw everything happen and was at every major event, the biggest loss was Riley. Because when he was here, he not only won, he lit up the entire city. Every game was special with them. And that's what you have now. When I walked out of there tonight, and Josh and I were walking down, 7th back towards 31st, and it was a madhouse. I said, Josh, it's the biggest game that they've played in that building in basically 25 years or more. Maybe even, if you want, 30 years. That's how big this is. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't start thinking about Indiana. I know Cleveland is all banged up. I don't think they're going to come back and win that series. I thought they would have, but now I think the injuries are so significant, and now we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow we just don't know as far as who's going to play and who's not. And without that happening, there's really, and listen, they got they got knocked around. They absolutely got knocked around in that game. They were not, it didn't matter what happened in the second half. It didn't matter who played, who didn't play in the second half because, whether Mitchell was going to play in the second half or not, they were not winning that game. They were run out of the building in the first half. And now Indiana is one game away from standing in the way. But the Knicks have, and when it has been this long, and you're playing a defending champion, don't take anything for granted. Not anything. You don't want to play them a game 6, just like you didn't want to fool around this evening. And I can tell you right now, I didn't know Tatum was going to go down, but I can tell you right now, I went into tonight's game thinking if the Knicks didn't win tonight, they were not going to win this series under any circumstances. I did not think they would. They had to win this game tonight, and they did. And the Knicks didn't win tonight because Tatum got hurt. They couldn't do a thing with Tatum tonight, but when he went down, this game had turned. The Knicks had seized control. They were not going to get beat. But the Knicks have to stick to business. And I still would like to see Tibbs show. Listen, Robinson has become more and more a factor. I would like to see him believe a little more in the bench because you're going to need it. I know how much he thinks he can wear out his starters. I understand that. But the bottom line is there is a point of no return with that. And there does come a point where guys do get worn down. There's no question about that. And Brunson played 40 minutes tonight. Bridges played 44. No one else played 40. White played 43, but Bridges played 44. And he had 23 points and 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals, and was plus 14. And he makes all the subtle plays, and then he goes on these scoring sprees, which they have to have, big basket after big basket. And this was tonight was like an old. I've told you about those nights in the Garden. You've heard about those nights in the Garden. If you were there tonight or watching at home tonight, or wherever you might have been watching, you saw one of the old-time games. New York came out for this game. The crowd was loud. It was just a scene. And I'll tell you, there were so many people there tonight that I hadn't seen. I played in a charity event today, golf tournament, so I had to hustle in. So I took the train in. And who did I meet on the train and talk to all the way in? Sean Landetta, who I haven't seen in I can't tell you how long. He jumped on the train with me, and the train was packed. So we both stood all the way to Madison Square Garden. He was taking his son to the game tonight. And then tonight, I bumped into so many players and old Knick players, and then who did I walk out of the Garden with tonight, other than Josh, who was with me tonight. He sat with me tonight. Joe Torre, who I haven't seen in a while, and Joe and I, and there was Joe there tonight walking out after the game, and we had a great time. We had a nice talk because we were waiting for the elevator, and we had a great talk. Haven't seen Joe in a while. And then I got to backstage. I got to talk to Timothy Chalamet for a while, who is a crazy Timothy Chalamet, who's a great Knicks fan. I mean, a crazy Knicks fan. You've heard that, and the Knicks told me that. They said he's a wild Knicks fan, and it definitely is, and he has been since he was a little kid. So give him that. A legitimate fan. And then me, I was acting like a starstruck starstruck kid because I told him, I said, "Do you know how many times I watched that movie?" And he didn't believe me. And then when I was walking out after he had left, I was saying to him, first of all, I'm a Dylan nut. I have been forever. And I loved that movie, and I loved him in that movie. And you've heard me talk and review that movie for you. And he thought I was making it up when I said I've seen the movie 10 times. And I was texting back and forth with Jack as I was waiting for the elevator. And I said, Jack, tell Josh how many times I've seen that movie. I thought he was going to say 10. He said 50. He said it's on every day. I said, I can't tell you how many times. I love the music in it. I love everything about it. I love the other performers in it. I love the job Ed Norton did, who I think is a great character actor. I thought Barbara, who played Joan Baez, was brilliant. I thought the whole thing was great. And I loved Timothy in it. And so 10 might be light. I might have seen the movie 15 times. No, I definitely have seen it a lot. I admit. They make fun of me at home for watching it all the time. I do love it because I love the music. I'll put the music on while I'm doing something and I'm listening to the music. I love the music from it. So I do. I have seen that a lot. So I got to actually talk with him tonight on the way out. He was going to Boston, he told me. And I said I want to get him and Josh to come on one of the podcasts because they're Nick crazies. Okay. Absolute Nick crazies. I had my doubts tonight. I didn't like the way the Knicks were defending the Celtics. I kept yelling for them to push the ball, and they were trying to push it, but it wasn't working. And it looked to me like Brunson was kind of spinning his wheels in the first half. And I'm like, I think they're going to need him to go off. And then it happened, flicked the switch at 72-58, and here came Brunson just having one of those runs. And then Bridges. And I'm a Bridges guy. You know I have been. I have been going back to Villanova. See, I was big on those teams, remember, before they got to be Knicks, because of my relationship with Jay Wright, but also because I loved those Villanova teams. And I've always been a big Bridges guy. And the depth to his game is a lot deeper than you've seen. I don't think you guys know where the bottom is because he's got really good game in him. You've seen it in the series, especially in the fourth quarters, both ends of the floor. He's got more to give. He's got a lot more to give. And they have to get it out of him. And one of the things we talked about when they started the playoffs was this team's ability to have 4 scorers who are all capable. Remember, no team in the league had 4 guys this year at 40 points except one, the Knicks. All 4 guys, all 4 starters except Hart got 40 points in a game. And Hart got 30. So you had a starting 5 where every guy at least had 30 once, Hart. And the other guys at least had 40. That gives them an ability to go on these riffs offensively where one can get hot and give you a quick 9 points. And that is enormous. The Knicks weren't going to beat the Celtics defensively tonight. They did do a much better job against the three in the second half. They got much more aggressive in the passing lanes. They got much more aggressive on the backboards, but they had to win this game by answering on the offensive end, and they did. They scored 70 points in the second half. They outscored them 70-51. You know that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. When you put up that in the second half in a big pivotal game, 37-point third quarter, 33-point fourth quarter. Outscore them 70-51. The Knicks answered the bell offensively. They answered it with their tenacity and their toughness, and they snapped back and proved they had more to give. Now they have to do the toughest thing of all, Tatum or no Tatum. Let's close out a defending champion. They don't go easily. So don't expect it to go easily. I know you're seeing that avenue to another round, to a conference final, to maybe an NBA final, and you're getting just absolutely giddy about it. One step at a time. This was a big step tonight, a step they had to prove they could take. They got another step. And the last one's the toughest one to get. Now we got a busy week this week. We got a Knick game Wednesday. We got schedules coming up in the NFL, and that's become an event. Everything's an event with the NFL now. Everything is an absolute event. You got the Preakness on Friday, on Saturday, and maybe we'll preview it on Friday. Maybe I'll wait till Saturday. I don't know what I'm doing with that yet, and I know the race lost a lot without sovereignty. It's still a Triple Crown race, and we'll deal with it. And you have Yankees Mets Friday night at Yankee Stadium. And anytime, you know my feeling on that. Anytime they play, it's special. It's meaningful. And it's always a full house. And that's why people who knock those games just don't get it. Those games have been a big part of what this city's been about from a sports standpoint for a long time. And if they start playing in front of half-empty buildings, I'll tell you there's no appeal. That never happens. These games matter. And now, with both teams being good, it matters more. And, of course, there's another issue. Can't remember what it is, but there's another issue somewhere out there. And we'll get to that. So, busy week. Probably talk to you tomorrow. Definitely Wednesday. We'll see you later.